The Pinecrest HOA potluck smelled like Four Smiles and store-bought potato salad. String lights twinkled over the community clubhouse lawn that every homeowner paid $12 a month to keep manicured within an inch of its life. I stood at the edge with my lukewarm lemonade, watching Miranda Voss, our fearless president, hold court like she owned the zip code. Miranda Voss, HOA Karen extraordinaire, with her husband Thomas counting every nickel as treasurer and their golden boy son Grant enforcing compliance like it was his personal religion. I was Harper Lane, 31, freelance writer who paid her dues on time and kept my grandmother's cottage exactly as Eloise Monroe left it when she helped found this neighborhood 30 years ago. Tonight was supposed to be simple: vote on new flowerbed guidelines. Instead, Miranda tapped her glass with a spoon that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. Friends, family, because that's what we are here in Pinecrest. We have a situation. Her voice dripped honey and arsenic. Harper's cottage has become visually disruptive. Those book-shaped garden sculptures, the fairy lights shaped like open novels, they violate Section 4.2 of our aesthetic standards. 3 written warnings ignored. The crowd murmured. Mrs. Patel from 2 doors down looked away. Mr. Chun pretended to check his phone. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, but kept my face neutral. I'd planted those sculptures as a quiet tribute to Grandma Eloise, the woman who taught me stories could outlast concrete. Thomas cleared his throat, ledger in hand. The board has calculated the cumulative fine at $3,200. Payable immediately, or we place a lien on the property. For the good of the community. Of course. Grant smirked, folding his arms. We can't have one homeowner thinking she's above the rules. It sets a precedent. I opened my mouth to speak, but Miranda cut in with that polished smile. Harper, darling, we're not monsters. You have until midnight to remove every last violation and pay the fine. Otherwise, the board will vote to reclassify your cottage as temporary community storage. The locks, well, the gate codes and access will be updated. Your contributions to the emergency fund, already reallocated for urgent board-approved repairs. He slid his phone across the folding table. The HOA app showed my special assessment account at 0. Timestamp, 6:47 p.m. The same account I'd quietly fed every month since Grandma died. Earmarked for storm repairs she'd insisted on in her original covenants. 3 years of scraped-together freelance checks gone. The grandfather clock inside the clubhouse chimed 7:23. I would remember that number forever. The way writers remember the second before everything explodes. Miranda dabbed her mouth with a napkin printed with tiny American flags. We're releasing deadweight. Sweetheart, Pinecrest thrives when everyone pulls in the same direction. Grant's hand landed on my shoulder like a velvet trap. Come on, Harper, don't make this harder than it has to be. I yanked away, but the board had already voted 3 hands up, mine the only no. The neighbors who used to wave at me now stared at their shoes. Mrs. Chin's security camera would catch it later, me walking out alone while Grant changed the community gate code right there on his phone. I sat in my 10-year-old Civic until midnight, watching the clubhouse lights go dark. At exactly 12 a.m., van rolled up. 2 men in Pinecrest polo shirts swapped the electronic gate module, while Miranda supervised from the porch in her silk robe. Porch light gleaming off her perfect highlights. I drove to the Highway 70 motel, paid with the last card that still worked, and stared at the polyester bedspread. The notebook I'd grabbed on my way out still had Grandma Eloise's handwriting on the first page. Never let them dim your light. Sweet girl. Below it I wrote, Chapter 1, the night the HOA thought they won. Because every good story needs a villain. And mine had just shown their hand. I didn't know yet about the email waiting in my inbox from an attorney I'd never met. Didn't know about the Eloise Monroe Heritage Covenant Trust, the clause that would detonate under their perfect little kingdom. All I knew was the taste of betrayal and the weight of a gate code that no longer opened anything. But I was a writer, and writers know how to revise everything, even revenge. The motel fluorescent light buzzed like an angry mosquito. I opened my laptop, the one thing I'd left in the car after a coffee shop writing sprint, and started digging. 3 years of covering Pinecrest community events on the neighborhood Facebook page had given me access to every public post Miranda ever made. Her About Us page for the HOA board read like a fairy tale. Dedicated stewards preserving our shared American dream. The photo showed the Voss family in matching polo shirts in front of the clubhouse. Smiles coordinated like their spreadsheets. I knew the truth. Pinecrest wasn't built on trust. It was built on Grandma Eloise's original covenants, her vendor connections, and the quiet clause she'd slipped into the founding documents in 1995, before Miranda married Thomas and turned the volunteer board into her personal fiefdom. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Harper? It's Mrs. Rodriguez from across the cul-de-sac. Saw what happened to the potluck. That wasn't right. I closed my eyes. Thanks. I'm okay. You're not. But you will be. I saw Grant loading boxes from your cottage into his truck an hour ago. Looked like manuscripts. My heart clenched. 5 years of work. 3 completed novels. Character sketches Grandma had helped me outline before the cancer took her. Mrs. Rodriguez lowered her voice. Your grandmother tried to call me the week before she passed. Said she was worried about the board and some documents. Mentioned the shredder running for hours some nights. Miranda always called it spring cleaning. The industrial shredder in the clubhouse office. I'd watch Miranda feed old meeting minutes into it like they were inconvenient truths. The laptop dinged. Subject line, urgent. Eloise Monroe Heritage Covenant Trust. Action required. My hand shook as I clicked. MS. Lane. Our office has been attempting to contact you regarding the trust established January 15th, 2023. As sole beneficiary, you are to be notified upon triggering conditions. We've been alerted to a potential breach of the occupancy covenant. Please contact immediately. Marvin Cole, ESQ. Grandma had been gone 2 years. She'd set this up 2 months before she died. Still sharp. Still fighting. I dialed with trembling fingers. Cole Law Office's after-hours line. MS. Lane. Thank goodness. Mr. Cole has been trying to reach you. Can you come to the office first thing tomorrow? 701 Market Street. Suite 400? Bring ID and any documents regarding your cottage. I barely slept. My mind raced through memories. Grandma's final months. Miranda, suddenly the devoted board president, handling every piece of paperwork. Bill settled everything to the Voss-controlled HOA for community benefit. The law office smelled like leather and old paper. Exactly like Grandma's study before Miranda turned it into a filing vault. Marvin Cole looked like every trustworthy lawyer for my scripts, silver-haired, wire-rimmed glasses, hands moving with practiced calm. MS. Lane, your grandmother was quite specific. He opened a thick folder bound in blue. She was concerned about creative souls being crushed by, how did she phrase it? Petty tyrants in polo shirts. My throat tightened. Even from beyond, she was still protecting me. The trust holds the cottage, including the quarter-acre parcel legally separated from the main HOA common areas, plus a creative grant, $3,000 monthly for 24 months to support your writing. Funds that should have been dispersing since her passing. His expression darkened. This is where it gets complicated. Notification letters to your cottage were intercepted. Emails filtered. The board was copied as secondary contacts. They acknowledged receipt. They knew. My voice came out strangled. And there's Clause 4B, the hostile action provision. If the beneficiary is forcibly removed or fined into compliance by board members, several things trigger automatically. He read aloud. Upon verified hostile action, The trustee shall 1. Freeze any financial transfers from trust accounts to HOA entities. 2. Initiate a forensic audit of all related transactions. 3. Pursue legal remedies to restore occupancy and recover misappropriated funds. Misappropriated. Cole turned his laptop. The ledger showed every aesthetic violation fine and emergency assessment rerouted to Voss family board discretionary projects. New clubhouse chandeliers. Grant's golf cart upgrade. Miranda's luxury landscaping. Total diverted, $186,400. My family, my HOA family, hadn't just kicked me out. They've been robbing me blind for 2 years. Cole smiled for the first time. A sharp lawyer's smile. Your grandmother documented everything. Every board meeting. Every whispered conversation. She even left a video testimonial. Would you like to see it? Grandma's face filled the screen. Thin but fierce. If you're watching this, Harper, then they've done exactly what I feared. Miranda thinks in fines and control. She never understood that some things, creativity, integrity, stories, can't be regulated by committee. The cottage was always meant to be yours. Don't let them take it. Don't let them take you. The video ended with her signature line, never let them dim your light. Sweet girl. Cole slid tissues across the desk. The trust includes immediate temporary housing assistance. There's a corporate apartment downtown you can use while we file. An MS. Lane we execute clause 4B tomorrow. From homeless to housed in one conversation. From penniless to discovering I'd been robbed of almost $200,000. Tomorrow the war began. The corporate apartment overlooked downtown Asheville with floor-to-ceiling windows that made the HOA drama feel almost small. Jordan Pike, Cole's paralegal, spread printed statements across the dining table like battle maps. Every transfer has a paper trail, she said. Even a CPA like Thomas Voss can't erase digital footprints. We traced every dollar. Aesthetic compliance improvement became Miranda's new granite countertops. Storm Reserve funded Grant's country club membership. One transfer labeled cottage maintenance paid for the crystal chandelier that now hung in the clubhouse. $8,000. Posted on the HOA Instagram the same day. Jordan whistled. This one's gold. Internal board email where Miranda writes, the covenant provisions are vague enough. As long as we keep the cottage standing. Redirecting funds serves community interest. Harper will never notice. She doesn't even read the newsletters we forward. Statements I'd never received. Notifications filtered to spam. The doorbell rang. Law firm courier. Inside, a USB drive labeled insurance. Eloise Monroe. Jordan plugged it in. Dozens of video files dated across Grandma's last 3 years. She'd recorded everything. Board meetings where Miranda complained about the burden of maintaining legacy properties. Grant's sweet-talking grandma. You know, the HOA could really use an injection of capital. Harper's little stories aren't going anywhere. Might as well put that cottage to better use. Grandma's voice sharp despite her illness. Harper's stories have more truth than your entire rulebook. Young man, how many honest accomplishments can you claim? Video after video. The Voss family revealing themselves. Thinking Grandma was too old, too medicated, too naive, but the camera angles were perfect. Audio crystal clear. She deliberately documented every power grab. This is nuclear, Jordan breathed. We found spreadsheets Grandma kept like a diary. Every suspicious fine, every pressure tactic, every attempt to rewrite the original covenants. And the smoking gun, an email thread between the Vosses and their attorney 1 month before Grandma died. Once we have executive control, the trust funds can be redirected through the discretionary provision. Harper won't challenge it. She doesn't understand finance. We'll frame it as maintaining her future inheritance. They planned it while Grandma was dying. My phone rang. Unknown number. Harper? This is Bethany from HOA Accounting. I know I shouldn't be calling, but I found the real books, the second set they hide from auditors. Can we meet? Tomorrow. The coffee shop on Lexington. I'll bring everything. Another ally. Another grenade. The next morning, we walked into the offices of Gaines and Associates on the top floor of the Flatiron Building. Mara Gaines herself, silver power bob, suit sharp enough to cut glass, shook my hand with a grip that meant business. Marvin Cole speaks highly of you. Your family made one critical error. They got greedy and sloppy. She laid out the strategy like military strikes. First, emergency injunction freezing every diverted dollar and preventing further destruction of evidence. Second, temporary restraining order restoring my occupancy immediately, sheriff enforced if necessary. Third, notice of fraudulent collateral claims. They'd pledged my cottage as security for a $200,000 HOA improvement loan. Bank fraud on top of everything else. And the nuclear option, Mara said quietly. Criminal charges, embezzlement, conspiracy, bank fraud. The district attorney's white-collar unit will salivate. I thought of Miranda's perfect speeches about community values. The irony tasted metallic. What do you need from me? I asked. Your grandmother's notebooks. And prepare for depositions. They'll paint you as the bitter resident who rejected community standards. I smiled. Let them try. I have receipts. We filed everything Monday morning. By Tuesday, the Voss family would be served at their office. Maximum professional embarrassment. They call, rage, threaten. Every communication now went through counsel. I left that office with a legal team, a key to my temporary apartment, and the knowledge that Grandma had built a fortress I never knew existed. She knew exactly what they would do, and she made sure that when they did it, they would lose everything. The conference room at Cole's firm felt like a stage set for the final act. Neutral beige walls, mahogany table, windows throwing sharp afternoon light across the evidence binders. I sat between Cole and Mara. Jordan had her laptop ready. Across from us, the Voss family had assembled their army. Miranda in Navy Chanel, Thomas with his lucky cufflinks, Grant looking like he'd stepped out of a catalog. Their lawyer Harrison Finch had the drawl of old Southern money. Let's dispense with pleasantries, Finch began. This is a community matter that's gotten out of hand. Surely we can resolve without unnecessary drama. Mara's voice could have frosted glass. Your client stole $186,400 from a protected trust. They committed bank fraud. They shredded documents. Which part is unnecessary? Counselor, alleged, Finch corrected. I couldn't help myself. Alleged like changing my gate code while I was still at the potluck? Or alleged like emptying my emergency fund without permission? Miranda's voice dripped disappointment. Harper, this vindictive behavior is exactly why we had to act. You've always been prone to dramatics. Cole slid the first binder across. Let's review facts. Exhibit A. Trust disbursements rerouted to HOA discretionary accounts. Exhibit B. Loan documents pledging the cottage as collateral. Exhibit C. Internal emails discussing how to maximize assets before the beneficiary notices. Grant shifted. Thomas wouldn't meet my eyes. Cole produced the tablet. I think we should play the video now. Grandma's face filled the screen. If you're watching this in a legal setting, then my worst fears have come true. Miranda, you turned my covenants into an empire. I was proud until I realized you'd monetize your own neighbors if given the chance. You saw creativity as weakness. You were exactly the kind of person I spent my life protecting Harper from. The room went silent. Finch cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss terms. Mara's smile was all teeth. Full restitution plus interest and penalties. Immediate return of the cottage. Resignation of Thomas and Miranda from all trust and board positions. Criminal charges at the DA's discretion, but civil liability is non-negotiable. This is blackmail, Miranda hissed. No, I said. Blackmail would be threatening to release the other videos, the ones where Grant jokes about putting Grandma in a home for faster access, or where you discuss having me declared non-compliant because I chose writing over your rules. 3 faces went pale simultaneously. You recorded us? Grant's voice cracked. Grandma recorded you. Every visit. Every plan you made while she was dying. I stood. You want to negotiate? Have Finch call with a real offer. Full restitution. No conditions, or we go to trial. And everyone in Pinecrest learns exactly how the Voss board built its power. As I reached the door, Miranda's voice stopped me. Harper, we're still neighbors. I turned. No. Neighbors don't steal. Neighbors don't scheme. Neighbors don't change your gate code and throw you away when you won't conform. You stopped being my community the night you voted. Now you're just defendants. The last thing I saw was Thomas's precise CPA mask cracking, revealing something that might have been regret, or just fear that his calculations had finally failed. The Buncombe County Courthouse Art Deco facade gleamed in the morning light. I climbed the steps between Mara and Cole, Jordan wheeling boxes of evidence that would either restore my life or finish the Voss empire. Courtroom 4B was smaller than TV dramas, but Judge Harrison commanded it like a general. My former board sat on the left, Miranda in conservative gray, Thomas clutching his portfolio, Grant fidgeting until Finch slapped his hand. Mara presented methodically, bank records, emails, the fraudulent loan, Grandma's videos. Each exhibit landed like a chapter in a legal thriller I never wanted to live. When Grandma's voice filled the courtroom, calling out every manipulation, every fine disguised as community good, Miranda's composure cracked. Thomas flinched. Grant sank lower with every word. Judge Harrison's gavel came down like hammer blows. The evidence is overwhelming. The respondents systematically defrauded the LOE's Monroe Heritage Covenant Trust. Preliminary injunction granted. The cottage returns to Harper Lane within 24 hours. All misappropriated funds, plus interest and penalties, escrowed immediately. Thomas and Miranda Voss removed from all positions. A special master will conduct a full forensic audit. She looked straight at them. You stole from your own neighbor while claiming to protect the community. You've lost the privilege of second chances. A federal marshal stepped forward. I'll accompany MS. Lane to the property to ensure compliance. The convoy rolled up at 3:47 p.m. Marshal SUV. Locksmith van. My Civic returning like a pardoned exile. Neighbors watched from porches. Mrs. Rodriguez stood waving. Thomas answered the door, looking 10 years older. He handed over the new gate key with shaking hands. This was your grandmother's original. The walk to the cottage felt like crossing a battlefield after the war. Grant emerged carrying a box of my manuscripts. I was just bringing them back. The marshal made him set it down. Inside, the bones were still there, skylight pulling in golden light. Bookshelves waiting. Writing nook now empty of HOA storage boxes. But the smell of dust and neglect lingered. Miranda appeared at the threshold. Voice small. I found something while packing. She held out an envelope in Grandma's handwriting, dated 1 week before she died. I never opened it. After everyone left, I sat on the floor and read. My dearest Harper, if you're reading this, then the worst has happened. But I protected you every other way I could. Miranda sees the world in fines and control. You inherited my mother's artist soul. The cottage is yours by law, but more importantly by love. They'll call you selfish. Let them. Write it all. Sweet girl. Turn pain into prose. Never let them dim your light. P.S. Check behind the third bookshelf panel. I had a feeling you might need emergency supplies. Inside, the hidden compartment, $3,000 in cash. Grandma's original recipe cards for neighborhood potlucks, the real ones. And another USB labeled insurance. It contained scanned original covenants proving her 60% founding stake in the HOA common areas, somehow diluted to zero in the Voss era. My phone buzzed. Bethany, forensic auditor, just seized all board computers. Grant tried to delete files. They caught him. That night, I sat in the reclaimed cottage, surrounded by evidence and memories. Tomorrow the audit would begin. Tomorrow the full weight of consequences would crash down. But tonight I was home. For weeks later, the mediation room smelled like surrender. The Vosses looked like casualties. Mara slid the final terms across the table. Full restitution, $251,400 within 30 days. Cottage deed transferred free and clear. Permanent resignation from all HOA positions. Public acknowledgement of fiduciary breach. And the recipes. Grandma's handwritten cards returned with the payment. As we left, Grant stopped me. I'm sorry. For all of it. I met his eyes. Are you sorry you did it or sorry you got caught? He flinched. Both. Miranda tried one last time. We gave you everything. No, I said. Grandma gave me everything. You gave me rules, conditional approval, and theft. Don't rewrite the story now. On the villain role you chose. Thomas spoke quietly. Your grandmother knew. That's why she protected you from us. It was the closest thing to truth any of them had ever said. 28 days later, the wire hit my account. The deed recorded in my name alone. Cole delivered the final box, Grandma's recipe cards, and one more letter. Harper, check with Marvin about the Monroe Literary Foundation I established 5 years ago. Use it to help other writers and homeowners who've been told their voices don't matter. $200,000 in seed funding. Annual scholarships for young creatives who've been fined, silenced, or evicted by overreaching boards. Name me director. The Pinecrest HOA closed its old regime in March. Miranda now coordinates events for a chain hotel. Thomas's treasurer license is under review. Grant Tin's bar in Charlotte. And me? I write. The cottage has become a sanctuary for local writers and neighbors fighting their own HOA battles. Each scholarship recipient is another middle finger to every Karen who confuses control with community. Because Grandma was right. The best revenge isn't just surviving those who try to dim your light. It's becoming so bright that your glow helps others find their way out of the same darkness. Sometimes late at night, I swear I can hear her voice in the turning pages. Never let them dim your light. Sweet girl. I haven't. I won't. And thanks to her final gift, neither will the dozens of homeowners and writers who will follow. The end.